friends. My name is David Waralu. So good to be with you as always. Very excited to be here. It's because this information about President Putin not attending the meeting or the summit, rather, it's worth discussing. And this is why I wanted to come on the air and share this with you. Before I'll do anything, I would like to acknowledge and say thank you to Osiris for the super sticker. Once again, Osiris, it means a lot to me, man. I truly appreciate your continued support. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to extend my thanks to the channel's members and other supporters. And I'm going to give a shout out to a new member. He's not a new member. He just rejoined. Once again, is Ko Choi Hoi. Thank you very much for your becoming or joining the membership of the channel. Thank you so much. I also want to give a shout out to the channel new supporter, Harold Yu. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So thank you so much for becoming a channel member supporter, that is. So now we are about 49. So like I said earlier, let's reach 100 by the end of this month, so we can get on the exclusive Q&A that I will do for the members and supporters. So, and I thank you all. And if this is, by the way, your first time landing on this channel, please make sure to subscribe. If you want to show your support for this channel, I would really appreciate it. So, it goes without saying, if you hear me very well with the sound, just give me a thumbs up. So just to make sure. And also type in where you are joining me from. So I'm going to get on this. And by the way, just as a reminder, remember to join me tonight at 1900 hours for a great and an in-depth conversation with none other than the great Einar Tangen. And I'm not saying it to be Mr. Nice. I have a great respect for Mr. Tangen. His knowledge, his depth, he understands the issues in and out, geopolitically and economically, and he's someone I trust and I turn to get an accurate assessment. So don't miss this opportunity for this incredible conversation that I plan to have, and I already prepared the questions for Einar Tangen that we're gonna be addressing. So I look forward to having you join me on that. So today's topic, what are we talking about here today? We're talking about the Russian president Vladimir Putin issuing a statement that he will not attend the BRICS summit. Okay? Now, is this fait accompli or it is something else? And that's what I'm going to discuss a few things with you, provide you a different perspective. All this, guys, it's all about a different perspective. No more, no less. So, but before I do this, let me share with you two things from a tour around the world, because you need to know what's going on briefly here. So, the first one has to do with the, believe it or not, Algerian president is in China. He's meeting personally with President Xi, and he's going to be there for four or 5 days. What's important about this is the idea of how now Algerian president visited China. The key to this is the signing of a 19 agreement. Yeah, 19 agreements. And of course, this will confirm the cooperation between the two countries in an area of defense and technological transfer, or technology transfer, that is. So, and there is one thing you need to understand geopolitically. Algeria is of strategic importance to China due to the location on the Mediterranean Sea. What comes in mind? BRI. This is why Italy, when it announced that it will withdraw from BRI, it will be shooting itself in the foot. But I think Italy was pressured to leave the BRI. The next topic the next headline, that is, it has to do with these elements here. These are the critical elements. This is why, guys, when some companies approached me to do an advertisement for them regarding these issues, and they will ask, they'll say, Dr. O, would you please do some sort of a brief analysis for us about these issues and all that, because it has geopolitical implications. And usually I think twice before doing this, and I see the appropriateness of doing so. Well, here is the reason why. Because now you think about critical metals, market, it's going to double as the investments is going to rise up. Where? And all this, it's sort of sending persistent warnings about an anticipated supply shortages of critical minerals. Yeah. Even the International Energy Agency, IEA, which usually I don't trust much, even for them, they're saying, well, we are optimistic about, no. They're lying. There will be a shortage for this, and it's going to be who controls these resources will have the final say. That's the way I see it. So, all right, let's move on with our topic of the day. We're talking about President Putin's decision. So I'm going to provide you my insights, my assessments, and answer the fundamental question: why, if it is the decision, why President Putin made that decision of not attending. So let's start with the obvious. Well, the obvious, as it says, that the President Putin will not be attending the BRICS summit because, based on the statement from the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, he's saying that his arrest, meaning if Putin decides to go to South Africa, it will be a sort of a declaration of war on Russia. Now, there is a lot to unpack in that statement for two things. One of them is South Africa is not willing to risk, not about being scared of Russia. No. It's not willing to risk its friendship with Russia. It's because South Africa is seeing where the geopolitical landscape and multipolar system is moving towards. That's one. Second thing is, will pertain to his statements as far as being perceived as a declaration of war on Russia, because Russia will react to that. Well, is South Africa ready to fight Russia? If we are to go with that hypothetical assessment. But here is the thing that some Western media already sort of minimizing in their analysis, that this what happened is that both countries, South Africa and Russia, meaning President Ramaphosa and President Putin, have agreed on this decision. So there was another option that the President Putin could attend the summit virtually. I don't think so. You know why? Because that will be perceived as an insult to Russia. Because that is exactly what India did with the SCO, the South China, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Because Prime Minister Modi chaired the conference virtually, wasn't there in person. So the Russian president looked at it from optics, because optics matters. Like I always say, in international relations, context matters. How will it be perceived when all the other leaders are in Russia and the Russian president is virtual? Because that will send the signal, oh, he's so scared, he's afraid, and all that stuff, which is not the case. Then there is a third option. And the third option is, could it be that the Russian president is smart enough? This is not about him being scared, but rather saving South Africa from the hassle and the chaos. Because mark my word, if the Russian president to attend, the security is going to be massive. There is no way they can arrest him anyway. As a matter of fact, Russia is almost similar patterns we do as far as when the president flies to a foreign country or whatever. There is always an advanced team that goes to that country a month ahead, securing the areas, scanning the areas, doing all that. Russians are good at that. FSB will be all over South Africa for that matter. So could it be that the Russian president saying, you know what? Because my good relationship with South Africa, I'm going to spare all this. Instead of me going and creating this hassle and all this, I'm going to just send the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, to represent me officially in the summit. That is my reading on it. And to me, it makes perfect sense, because this is not about the ego. Russian president is not thinking about his own ego. Oh, I gotta show up. No, 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 no. He thinks pragmatically. You think strategically. Russia said, I'm sorry, South African president said that arresting Putin will be almost a declaration of war on Russia, because Russia's not gonna, they're gonna react and react forcefully. Mark my word on it. And they're not about to drag South Africa into this. So, and this is why the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, said in the document published, which made public, that the arrest of the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, will be a declaration of war. He didn't say will be considered as a declaration of war. He said it will be. So that gives you right there is a foregone conclusion. And this is why I believe the Russian president made that decision. So, and as you may know, the BRICS summit is going to be in August between 22nd and 24. I'm keeping an eye on it to see if there is. I already sort of got an idea a few months ago about the announcement regarding the currency, but we all know what India is trying to do. And speaking of India, by the way, one of our viewers here in the community sent me a comment saying that India stepped out of the SCO. I couldn't confirm that yet. I will check on that. But it'll make more sense if India is out of the SCO, and soon might need to be out of BRICS altogether, because this is exactly what happened with the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, in which India was a member. No longer. RCEP kind of went separate ways with it. So India withdrew. And by the way, just to be fair, because we are about fairness here, RCEP did not expel India. India withdrew on its own accord. So speaking of India, I am going to be reaching out to an analyst in India. He's well respected. I already know about his background in the military and all that. And I intend to invite him on this channel here to have an objective conversation. He's someone who's arguing against his own government because of the failed policies. So I'm working on it. I'll give you a heads up when that time gets closer, and we go from there. So becomes again the idea to go back to our main topic here. And this is where I was very, very sort of frustrated when I read about how India is objecting to BRICS moving forward with the currency. It's because the whole objective of the BRICS is aimed at striking a balance in the global governance, global balance of power, economically that is. And it might even be strategically or geopolitically. Why? Because you got two major players, Russia and India. Russia and China, rather, not India. India is not a major player. Let's just state the fact as they are. Once again, nothing against India. Not. It's just what's fact is fact. So you got the two main players is China and Russia. Of course, you have Brazil, India to a degree as far as, but markets, that will be it. But for geopolitical influence, you're going to be looking at Russia and China. That's about it. And the whole reason for this counterbalance is to the United States and, of course, to the European Union, because they've been dominating the global system, but not in a fair way. This is why, where I see personally BRICS moving forward with the currency might be a good thing. So then you got the other issue of, about the arrest warrant for the Russian president Vladimir Putin, because he has been targeted by the ICC since March. Well, if you know a little bit of history about ICC, the International Criminal Court, you're going to question his judgments. You got about 147 countries as a member. The United States is not a member. Russia is not a member. Yeah, believe it or not, they're not. So, and the moment an investigation was issued by the ICC to investigate the conduct of U.S. military personnel in Afghanistan, it was shut down. So where is the fairness of the system? But to keep the conversation focused on what we're talking about, why South Africa finds itself in a very, very delicate positions, because it is obligated, theoretically obligated, to arrest the Russian president if he enters its territory. And this is why, to me, it presents a very diplomatic dilemma for South Africa. And South Africa, this is why that decision was made between the two, Russian president and South African president. And the Russian president's decision wasn't about fear. No. It's about being smart, strategic, shrewd, but also preserving the friendship that he has with his counterpart in South Africa. This way South Africa doesn't have to get into all this hassle, because all this is going to come to an end at some point. You can't be issuing an arrest warrant for forever. Yeah, it's going to come to an end sooner than later. And of course, in the case of South Africa, it's because they were trying to think in terms of how it's going to be working. It's how it's going to be working as far as, could it be time for us, South Africa? I'm just putting myself in the shoes of South African government. Could it be time for us to reconsider just withdrawing from the ICC altogether? Yeah, the possibility is there. And why not? Because there is a precedent for this. If you go back to when you think about countries that are a member to the statute, which is this one pursuant to Article 12 and a section, I think, 4 or 3, somewhere around there, 3 or 4. And I think it's Section 3 in Article 12 of the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court. That is basically what it's stating, is that a state is not a party to the statute by declaration lodged with the registrar, except the exercise, this is the key word, the exercise of jurisdiction by the court with respect to the crime in question. So you think about it in these terms. Even if a state party to the statute, the relevant provisions of the statute will still be applicable on the accepting state, but only on an ad hoc basis. So why am I bringing all this for you guys? I'm bringing this to highlight to you that, as I said, it has been precedent to this. And the country that comes to mind is Burundi. Burundi became the first nation to leave the International Criminal Court, the ICC, withdrew from its membership altogether. And by the way, this happened back in 2017. I did some research on it to make sure that the information is accurate. And it was 2017, it withdrew from that. So, and the government in itself sort of applaud the decision. Why? Because they're seeing the double standards of the ICC. So, of course, the ICC is going to issue a statement, and it did issue a statement by saying, and I quote here, I even kept the quote, Burundi's withdrawal from the Rome Statute will take effect on Friday, October 27, 2017. End of quote. So, and this is why, as a matter of fact, South Africa also tried to do the same. Because here is the reason why the ICC, the International Criminal Court, has shown itself to be a political instrument and weapon used by the West to enslave other states. This is how it is perceived in some countries. So this is why in the case of Burundi, it was perceived as great victory for Burundi because it has defended its sovereignty and national pride. So the next question will become for us is, Could South Africa, right after this BRICS summit, will file a formal request to leave the ICC altogether? As a matter of fact, many countries in Africa do not want to be part of that. And this is, once again, I find myself trying to analyze the Russian president's decision. And that decision suggests to me that he wants to spare South Africa the headache, political and diplomatic headache of it, than just for him to attend summit. Because once again, mark my word, guys, as far as security or protection for the Russian president, if he would have decided to go, and you never know, he might end up surprising everybody. You just never know. But for something like this, I have my doubts. Decision is final. That the security will be very heavy. You can even get an inch closer to even the circle of where people surround in, and it will be undercover agents all over. We're looking at a few hundreds of security personnel, and those are, I don't know if you ever get a chance, I wish I would have pulled up a picture for you, but I had a chance to read about the training of the special detail of the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. They are highly, highly, highly trained. You know, they can take on special ops because they are a form of special ops. That just in security settings. They're highly, highly trained. So if they are to be deployed, rest assured, ain't gonna be 20 or 30 of them. They will be in hundreds. And they do have that capability. And this is why I am thinking in terms of the idea. The Russian president was thinking about sparing South Africa from dealing with this because it will be a nightmare. You know. But this looms large about the big picture. And the big picture is this, that if there is one thing I want you to get out of this live stream here, guys, is this, is that the double standard of the international organizations like the ICC, like the IEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, like the World Bank, like the IMF, like you get the idea, is the double standard that exists. You have one set of rules for one country, and you have another set of rules for another. And in this case of South Africa, as a matter of fact, the whole continent, Africa that is waking up now to that reality of we're done with the West being here, because all it was about is taking advantage of the natural resources in Africa. We all know this. It's nothing new. The Portuguese did it. The Spaniard did it, the Dutch did it, the Germans did it, the French, the British, the US. Now, there are some in the West will be saying, well, now the Chinese are doing it and the Russians doing it. Yes, the Chinese and the Russians are there, but are they doing exactly what Western colonials have done before? No, it's because, in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, based on my own research, based on my own readings, there is an agreement between countries in Africa. You take the example of Cameroon, for example. When you drive in Cameroon, all that infrastructure, who built it? Was it England? Was it France? Was it the US? Was it Germany? Was it Portugal? No, it was China. When you look at Sudan, those highways that they have, who built that? And this is where you see that arrangements between countries in Africa and either Russia or China, mainly in China because economics. That is the whole reason for it, because of economics. So countries in Africa are welcoming Russia and China and saying to the West, yeah, we will maintain a diplomatic relations with you. It's just we don't want you here. This is why Mali ended up kicking out France. And that is the reason why I did the video for you guys. I do videos for a reason, just FYI, not to fill the time, because I don't have time to waste. And you all know this. If I release a video or do a video for you guys, it's for a reason, because I want you to get the big picture. This is why I did the video about, and I put the title on it, Why Now in Africa, about NATO. Why all of a sudden the attention of NATO is shifting to Africa, especially in the Sahel area, which extended from all the way the coastline of the Atlantic, from Niger and the southern part of Mauritania, all the way to Sudan, or Red Sea for that matter. It's because NATO wanted to create or foment tensions to slow down the developments of African nations. Africa has a lot of resources. Africa has a lot of human capital, young population, vigor to work, very strong. But it lacks resources. And this is where China comes in. It's building up. Well, is China doing it for free? No, there is no such thing. Even in international relations, there's something called national strategic interests. So countries not going to do things for free, and rightly so. But at least in the case of China being in Africa, not exploiting African countries to the max like what the Western colonials have done. It's a win-win situations. China didn't put a gun on the African leader's head and said, hey, you're going to agree to our project. No, it's a free will. And again, I remember the case that I was very familiar with in Morocco, that when the Moroccan government and China wanted to start to talk about, the Moroccan government asked China for the smart city in Tangier up north, and was by which China was about to build infrastructure and modernize the city because it's a great strategic location, till the royal palace, or the king for that matter, made the decisions like, nope, we don't want it, because China said, well, sure, we will do all this, but here is the percentage we want, which is fair, And I don't think so the Moroccan government agreed to that percentage. So when they turned it down, they said to China, no, we don't want this. What did China do? Shook their hands and said, thank you, good luck to you, and moved on. And this is where I see personally the potentials for Africa if it plays its card right. Strategic one, that is. And it looks like they are starting. Because mind you, and let's not sugarcoat it, Africa is rampant when it comes down to corruption. Yeah. It's known. This is not a secret. And again, we're not pointing fingers. That's how it has always been. Maybe the next generation coming up will sort of start to think in terms of the welfare of the people. Again, because Africa has a lot of resources, natural resources, but it also has a human capital. It's a vibrant. As a matter of fact, I am starting to see, and I've been seeing this, even when I wrote the Russian book, which was a few years ago. Back then I argued, mark my word, that Africa is going to become the next geopolitical theater by which it will be a fierce competition among major powers. So, I mean, you look at just us, for us in the United States, we've been sending high-level officials one after another. So, but Africans do not trust U.S. officials because we cannot hold our end of the bargain. You look at just what just took place yesterday with the Russia deal regarding the grain, when we went back on our agreement. And the agreement was we will allow both Ukraine grains, but also Russia grains and fertilizer to be shipped to the world. Then we went back on our word and said, no, we're only going to allow the Ukraine one because we have sanctions on Russia. Like the saying goes, you can't change horses in the middle of the race. That's very bad. And by doing that, we showed once again how much we lack. There's no credibility left. Other countries will be thinking twice about shaking our hands and said, Yeah, let's do business. Nah, they'll be thinking twice about it. This is where the big concern is. But Africa in itself as a continent, it can play a major role in the new multipolar system. This is the way I see it. And this is once again, you look at, for example, a trip by the Algerian president to China, and all of a sudden, this cementing 19 agreements. Algeria is a very, very, very rich in natural resources and oil and so forth. It's an OPEC member. So you can just see. So to go back to my topic here about the Russian president making that decision. Once again, you always leave that room for what if? What if this is a decoy? What if? I don't think so in this case. That could be in some settings, but not this one. The reason being, well, I don't see it that way, and I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll admit it. I have no qualms saying, "Hey, I was wrong." As a matter of fact, it takes courage for someone to step forward and say, "I was wrong. I own up to it." So instead of shifting the blame to others. So here is the reason why I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so, because where BRICS is as an entity. Now, regarding India, I will leave it up to you to decide how you see that. I'm looking at the big picture. BRICS is at a really, really crossing path or crossing juncture in the global order. It's almost, I feel, this time around, it's make it or break it. And I believe the Russian president's decision was to leave room for BRICS to move forward where it needs to be. It's because the shifting in the global order, it's almost going parallel where BRICS needs to be. Except that recently, we already heard, and I did the video for you about the India objecting to the BRICS currency. And by the way, guys, be on the lookout for a video coming up about India in SCO. Yeah, I did detail some stuff there, so be on the lookout for it. So this is my thinking. If I am to put my geopolitical analyst hat on, and I'll think in terms of the Russian president was thinking long term. The summit is only 2 days. It'll come and go. There will be another summit. But the juncture of where BRICS is vis-a-vis the global geopolitical order, it's of great importance. And any minor distraction to that, because if the Russian president goes to South Africa, it'll sort of, it will be like a party crasher, per se. And the Russian president doesn't want to do that. Why? Because he wants to give the opportunity for BRICS to move forward. Now, regarding the issue of India, they're going to have to deal with it in the summit. And there are those who ask the question, and I'm going to ask you the question as well. Do you think during BRICS, the issuance of the new currency will move forward? In other words, will BRICS move forward with issuing the currency, whether India likes it or not? What do you think? Just leave me some comments in the chat box, and I'll take a look at it. Excuse me. And once again, you have to think in terms strategic. The strategic thinking is very crucial. And the way to tell a great leader from a poor leader or an incompetent, if I may use the right terminology, a competent versus an incompetent leader, how can you tell? Is the strategic thinking. A competent leader will think far ahead. Incompetent leader, and examples are abound. I can give you just few. Look at the sanctions on Russia imposed by the EU, the US and the EU. In the US, our leadership is incompetent, regardless. And I don't shy away from that. I don't care what some here in the United States might be thinking about me talking negatively about America and all that. It's nonsense. We have incompetent leader, period. I'm talking about the incompetent leaders in the EU. Did they think about the strategic impact of imposing sanctions on Russia? They did not. And this is where you realize an incompetent leader from one who is. And to compare this to the case we are talking about, the Russian president, he tends to think strategically. I read his bio. I read his background. I was in Washington. I dealt with the stuff that I need to know about a head of a foreign government. He's always been that way because he was a former KGB. When you're getting into that world of the intelligence, being shrewd, being strategic is part of it. So this is where I see the rationality, the pragmatism of this decision, why the Russian president moved forward and announced, the Kremlin did on his behalf, of course, announced that he's not going to be attending, is because the strategic thinking of where the BRICS is headed as an entity. Yes, you do have elements in it, like India. We know which element here. So let's say it the way it is. That is not sort of in sync with this vision. Well, that becomes the question: does the leader of India have a vision? Is he a strategic thinker? And I'll let you answer that. I don't need to answer it for you. And you have to think in terms of, again, this is for me personally the way I see how geopolitics works, how it works. I've been dealing with this for almost 30 years. So you kind of build, first of all, your credibility into this. Second, your knowledge about it. And third, it's understanding how to decipher for global events and put them within the right context. And this is one of them. I'm trying to provide you guys the big picture, strategically speaking, of how, for example, the movement of BRICS. That's what prompted me to do these videos about BRICS and India and all that stuff. It's because, again, you are looking at a two what's you call it? It's like a yeah, I'll draw a blank here. Train tracks. They are parallel. Are they ever crossing? Yes, at some point down there, but mainly they are parallel. You're looking at the geopolitical global order on one track, and you're looking at a BRICS on the other track. They are moving forward parallel that way. Where are they gonna cross? They're gonna cross at the point of where, for example, a currency is issued that is gonna be challenging the US dollar dominance. Because we abused it. And I've always said this many times. I don't need to repeat myself here. This is where you see where that cross path is going to come. And it's going to come one way or another. This is where the concern of the West about BRICS is, because if it expands, you got about 40 countries lined up. Not all 40 is going to get in, of course, right away. And I think if I were to advise, I am sure BRICS has its own advisors and we're qualified and they know what they're talking about and so forth. But if I am for the day to be asked or invited to BRICS and said, what advice can you give us? And it will be simple. You need to review your admission process, by which you put a condition that if a country is not in a line with the policies and the strategic vision of the club, then it needs to be expelled immediately. No ifs and buts. With one clause, and that clause will be taking into consideration the interest of every country. Because we gotta have to be fair. Fairness is very important. There are those who will say in international relations or global affairs, there's no fairness. It's all about national strategic interest. That is true. But also, it's about how you go about it. It's like in the case of Africa. We'll go with Africa. Do you go with the approach of economic developments, economic projects, ventures, and so forth, or you go with the track of conflicts, corruptions, and so forth? The choice is clear. And this is where I see the big picture of. That's what prompted me this morning when I got up early this morning. And I usually read up the night before I go to bed. And as soon as I get up, is again, that's what I've been doing for a living. Geopolitics is my wheelhouse, is my area of academic background. So it becomes on me to keep myself informed and educated about the issues. And when I came across this one here, I was like, no, the community needs to know about this within the big picture, because it's very important. Very, very, very important. Once again, things could change. You never know. But so far, that's how I read it personally. There is a reason for, let me say thank you to, who am I seeing here? Oh, Black Raven. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. And thank you all, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I do notice that sometimes if I am in an interview or a conversation with someone and they're super sticker, I can intervene and cut off the guest. I'm sure you guys understand all this. So when I'm by myself, if I'm doing it with me and Elizabeth on the other channel, or Ross for that matter, yeah, I can do this. But I'm sure you can understand this one. So, but thank you so much, Raven. I truly appreciate it. So once again, it's just to put this. Let me see, because I'm looking for the comments for the question I put, whether there's an answer about it or not. So I don't see the answer yet. So I'm gonna keep moving here, and I'll get to it later on. So once again, that's what prompted me to decide to do this immediate. And this is why I like, at least from this channel, it's easy for me to just get on here, put my talking points that I need you to know, and talk. I don't have, this is my office here, basic stuff, get on here, turn the things on and talk. Share the knowledge. That's why I like it. And that's what I intend to do, by the way, guys, on the health channel, because I promised you, I gave you my word. I will create a channel just for health tips. This is not about, it will be research, don't get me wrong. And I will be reaching out to people in the field of health with over 30, 40 years of experience. So I look forward to launching this. I am putting the final touches on it. I'm not rushing it because it has to be done right. And I would love for you guys, all of you, to subscribe to that channel. It's because it's for us all. What I share with you is for me as well, because I like to maintain my health. So I'll give you a heads up once you get to that point. Once again, this is the point of why I decided to do this one here. It's just to let you know about the importance of this decision and why. This is not about fear. This is just for me to recap all this, guys. This is not about fear or scared or no. It's about strategic thinking, not to drag another friend into the mud of diplomatic law with the International Criminal Court. That is the reason for it. It's a strategic move. And again, this will pass. Things gonna move, the thinking, the clear thing that you need to keep in mind is the idea of where BRICS is headed, where it's going. And at this juncture, in the global, in the history of the global war, of the world order, it is a juncture. As a matter of fact, as we speak, there is a visit to China by none other than the former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, because it just marked, I think 2 days ago, marks the 50th anniversary of his secret trip to China. So why is he going to China for? Even we all know Henry Kissinger's history is not bright. We all know what he did in Southeast Asia and in Vietnam and in Laos, and he was his recommendations. I don't care you are 100 years old or not. You gotta the decisions you embarked on have ruined lives, led to massacres. So how can you be forgiven for something like that? Knowingly, you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were recommending for the president of the United States as a policy. So what is he going to China for now? Is it because he's getting closer to checking out? Want to make amends? That's to me a form of hypocrisy. I'd rather have a person like that come forward and said, I was wrong, I did wrong, and I ask for forgiveness if it's possible. I will have more sympathy for someone who has the gut to step forward and say something like this. So you're going to China for what? After all what you've done? I have no sympathy for, elderly or not. I don't care for that kind of stuff. Your actions speak louder. So that's the way I see it. So this is what I wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to take a look, see if there's any question. One final reminder, remember to join me tonight at 1900 hours with for a great and in-depth conversation with Einar Tangen. He will be here, which will be, by the way, 8 o'clock morning time in China. So let me take a look, see if there's any question, and I'm going to wrap it up because I need to go do one research for another video that I'm working on for you guys. So I will do that. All right. Question from, I see one quickly here from question more. Question: if South Africa hosts Putin, what do you think ICC will do? What's the punishment for not obeying ICC? Well, the decision has already been made. Putin is not going to be attending the summit physically. It's because he, the Russian president, wants to spare South Africa from this diplomatic row, because it will be a diplomatic nightmare for South Africa, because South Africa is bound by the regulations and the clauses of the ICC. Now, South Africa could have done this if he wasn't a member, and now I am sure they're going to be thinking about maybe it's time for us to reconsider that membership altogether, and that's what I see them doing. So let me see if there's another question, and I'm going to sign off here, guys. And once again, thank you all for the continued support. And if this is your first time, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. That's how we're going to grow. All right, I'm going to the top, guys, here just to see if there's any question there. And be on a lookout for, again, 2 key videos I'm going to be releasing for you. Once again, there is a reason why I release certain videos. Oh, somebody shared this one here. Let me share it with you guys. Ekwam, he said, hello, Dr. David. Burundi did the right thing by leaving ICC, and the sooner South Africa leaves, the better. Yeah, many will agree with you. Many will agree with you. And that's again, because you're seeing the double standards for international organizations. If they were set rules that applies across the board, that will be another conversation. But that's not what we're seeing. So, well, guys, I hope you find this very informative, and I look forward to seeing you at 1900 hours. So I'll be having a conversation with Einar Tangen. Once again, as always, as I say, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.